Okay, it's awesome. And
Nicest dude in the world.
yeah. Dig the podcast number, can't remember, 32 with the one and only Rob Steger, training for Ultra, baby. Let's do this. All right, Rob, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. This is super exciting. Oh man, before coming here, I just pulled a muscle on my back, and it like hurts when you breathe. So it's like, oh yeah, fun. But what I was gonna say is like, I've been following you on social media for a long time. Your story is so inspiring because probably my favorite thing about what you do is that you basically want to tell people that, hey, a regular person who has a full-time job, who's a dad, family man, can do all these things. You don't need to be a superhuman to attempt doing all these crazy things. So we're going to talk about all things ultra running. I should call you ultra running because you're going all these crazy distances.
Yeah, I have a bit of an extreme personality, that's for sure.
And so we're going to talk about that. And but before that, of course, we'd love to learn more about you. But before we start that, let me ask you this random question. How are you enjoying training in this amazing weather that we've been having the last couple of days, triple digit?
That's a good question. And I think it's part of like this newfound mindset that I have. Like, just make the most of what you're given.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of shifted how I view 100 degrees, and I look at it as a challenge in heat training, and I try to see like the benefit of how to do this smart. And honestly, going into Bigfoot 200, I need some heat training. I heard last year it got really hot during sections, so I'm just trying to be, happy to be running, but then make the most of the situation. And I'm also peaking out for the triple right now, so I'm in a good space mentally with how my running's going. Yeah. From middle of the pack, peaking out, crushing those. I can max out at an 8-minute mile right now, which, I'm no elite, that's for sure, but I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, I like how you put things in perspective, because it could be so easy to say, you know what, this weather sucks. I don't know, like, and you make the best of it, you embrace it. And that's something that, I'm still kind of learning, like kind of see things differently. What was I going to say? Because in the end, you're going to go through these things, right? So
you can always make excuses.
Exactly.
Your brain, and this happens in life, and then even in the heat of like an actual ultra race, like your brain's very good and can come up with very good rationale for why you should quit.
Right.
Or why you shouldn't go for that run.
Right.
And the trick that I've learned over probably 4 years of running at this point is learning when to ignore that voice. To know when your brain's saying that's acute pain, like you could be injured, versus just these excuses.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting, because that's one of the things I wanted to ask you. How does your mind work when you're dealing with this very difficult physical type of runs? Like, is it more like, oh, I'm gonna ignore it and I'm gonna keep focusing on the positive or whatever, or do I embrace it? Like, I remember Scott Jurek, he wrote in his book something like, when he was doing ultras, he follows like 2 or 3 things. Like, one, he acknowledges what's going on, and 2, I think he's like, okay, how can I make the best out of this situation? And the third one is like embracing it. So and I guess we all
agree with that.
Yeah,
I mean, from my vantage point.
Or like, I don't know, music. Sometimes I personally listen to music as a reward. I don't know how you do that, but like for me, especially in long runs, I don't know, it depends. When I do long runs, I've been listening to audiobooks and podcasts lately because I like the pace. But sometimes when I do races, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start listening to my music after I've done X miles, kind of as a reward.
I mean, I should try to do a self-plug to like check out the audiobook.
That's what I was going to say. Awesome.
I don't listen to audiobooks when I run. I listen to music or nothing at all.
Yeah.
And I use music almost as, and it depends on what music I pick.
Totally.
But, almost like an Advil. So if I am hurting, like I can turn on a certain song and it's like taking in a leave or something. And then I also am careful if I'm like on a downhill section not to hit one of those good songs and like just blow my quads up and vice versa. But yeah, a lot of my lows are during a race when I don't have music. So I'll keep that in the toolbox and use it carefully.
Yeah, I agree. Like, went on a long run the other day. It was like, longish, 12 miles. And so I'm doing my thing. I'm having fun. And I downloaded some Limp Bizkit music. It's been a while. So, it was like good time. So
I just heard that the other day, too.
It was like weird. Such good time. So good. Anyway, good in the 90s. Anyway, I'm just, I was like, okay, I'm hurting a little bit. I'm just going to put on some music. And I started listening to them. And I just want to go hard. And you should have seen me. My face was like, I was all pumped up and like ready to just go hard. And I'm like, yeah, don't do that because you still have, I don't know, another 8 miles to go. So
you're doing it for the nookie or whatever.
Take it easy. So it's just awesome. I don't know. They had only one album, I think. But anyway, a bunch. But all right, we'll talk about music later, but what was I going to say? So yeah, I like that attitude. But for people who are not familiar with you, can you talk a little bit more about yourself and, especially what was life before you found running? Because, I mean, you've said this before, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you literally changed your life. And so, so it's a pretty awesome story to follow.
Yeah, thanks. Life before running was just real stressful. I worked basically 80-hour weeks and was just unhappy, just a totally different person. My whole outlook was just trying to memorize math equations, essentially. Like,
I'm fascinated about that, by the way.
Yeah, it was just sitting at a desk, studying, going to work, working with numbers, and just, it was a weird existence. Like, looking back, it's 5 years of my life where I'm like, I don't really have any great, notable memories. I got married, took things serious, and then 5 years later, I was found myself at the doctor with incredibly high blood pressure and high cholesterol levels, and I was not exercising at all. And my wife and I would go for a walk very, very occasionally, and my fingers would be tingling, and my doctor is going to put me on Lipitor. And yeah, then my dad had his big health scare, which was kind of the eye-opener for me.
Right.
Because he told me, like, yeah, you probably have a genetic disposition for what happened to me. And so he had some heart stents put in. He turned things around. He's doing incredible.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
He ran a marathon.
Yeah. Half and then the marathon,
He just won an entry into the New York marathon.
I saw that
too.
That's
kind of crazy.
That's amazing because I'm thinking about, like, my father-in-law. Right now he suffered stroke, and he has not been able to recover since then. And it's basically because of the lifestyle that he lived south. Living in the south, eating really bad for their whole lives, and we always try to what is the word, like, encourage them and get them excited to eat a little differently or be active, but it was hard. I mean, we bought them, I think we bought them one time, like, not a treadmill, but one of those things, and heart rate monitors, and it's not easy sometimes to change that mindset. What do you think made your dad to just change?
Well, I mean, back to that point, eating and exercise are like just so fundamental that it is easy to forget the importance of them. And I was one of those people. I totally took all that for granted and was studying and just eating pizza daily. Excuse me. And I think my dad, honestly, like, he had to change because of his heart stents. And the irony of my whole story is that I kept saying, hey, dude, like, just go for a run, it'll be fun because I had found running after losing 50 pounds doing Joe
juice.
Cross's
man,
green juice.
I tried that. I think I lasted for only 7 days once. So you,
I mean,
you did 40.
I did 40 days or something crazy because I'm
insane.
pretty extreme. Like once I make everything a challenge
I love
for
that.
myself
I love
and
that.
just, but yeah, once I lost the weight and started running, I was throwing photos on Instagram and my dad actually started watching. And then I think when he realized like, oh, Rob can do this, like I want to try it.
Yeah.
Because he kept making excuses about his knees and all this other stuff. And then he's turned into a really good runner.
Awesome.
Yeah, he eats really healthy now. I think he's more into like a low carb kind of paleo thing.
Got it. Okay.
Similar to what I'm doing. If anything, he was before me on that front. But yeah, he's done quite a few half marathons and one marathon, and now I know he has New York City on the schedule. So knowing him, he'll be training daily for it.
That's awesome. Have you done New York before?
No, I've actually applied twice and haven't got in.
Yeah, it's so my only time that I did was my very first marathon. So I'm from Peru. I'm running, with a group of runners in Peru, and I just got in the lottery, won it, and it was an incredible experience. I mean, I've been to the U.S. before, but just coming here to run, the marathon, and just so many people. I can't remember how many times I cried during the race.
That's
just so emotional. I love that.
It seems like a special moment.
Totally.
And I'm just hoping my legs still work after Moab 240.
What's another 26?
And I might actually tag on a few extra miles to Moab 240. I haven't really announced anything yet.
Right.
I'm possibly working on something else there. So, yeah, it would be special, though.
Of course.
It'd be really cool because I haven't run like side by side with my dad for a half marathon or anything like that. So we've run some miles together, but nothing beyond probably a 5K or 10K.
Oh, that's going to be special.
So, yeah, New York City. Anyone out there with a connection, hook me up.
There you go. There you go. And so stressful life, eating unhealthy, not exercising, and
I read a book.
And okay. Talk about that, Dean Karnazes' book.
Right? It was life-changing.
How did you find about it? How did you learn about Dean?
Audible on Amazon.
So, but
which is mind-blowing to see my book next to his. It's like really, really weird.
And you have interviewed.
Looking back
that's
there.
awesome.
Yeah. But I'm a big audiobook guy because I can like turn the speed up. It's just how my brain works.
Yeah.
Like verbally, I'm not very quick. I think visually, and then when I get audio in, I can like just take it all in, and I can take down a book every day.
So that's how, because I remember I heard in a podcast, I think you were saying that for when you started reading books or listening to books, it was like the month of December that you were like listening to books. So one per day. Was that in audio?
A lot, yeah,
Yeah.
a lot. Also on Kindle. But yeah, it was 2015, and I read that book. I think it was 2015. Went back. It might have been actually earlier, but I tried running after reading Dean Karnazes' book, and I couldn't run beyond. I specifically remember 0.8 miles, and then I had just horrible shin splints. So took my shoes off, threw them in the back of the closet, and just I was in awe of runners. Like my wife would go for an easy 3-mile run, and I was just in total awe of her forever. And I remember distinctly driving down the road, seeing people running, just like, how do they do that? Like, I want it so bad. And I just wrote myself off after that 0.8 attempt several times. And then it wasn't until losing 50 pounds, the realization that me at 200 pounds is causing shin splints. Me at 150 is a lot more natural. And so I got a treadmill after my dad's big heart issue. And I got a bike for the basement too. It was crazy, but and it was expensive. I didn't have the money to spend on that stuff. But I told myself, like, if I don't make a change now, I'm definitely headed down that path. I truly thought because I was having chest pains, and I haven't talked extensively about that stuff, but stress was killing me.
Yeah.
It was killing me.
I can kind of relate. I used to work corporate before I started, I guess my journey as an entrepreneur, which still long ways to go. But I can totally relate that being stressed out, especially for me, it was work, and because we don't have, we don't have kids, or we don't have all the responsibilities, I guess, that like I see that you have, but I can see
it's hard.
Yeah, my wife one time, she had to wear one of those Holter monitors because her heart was making weird noises, and so that's when you realize that you need to make some changes. So
we kill ourselves
yeah,
to pay for stuff that is just stuff.
Yeah,
we don't even need it. It doesn't make us happy.
Yeah, totally.
And we get in this like vicious cycle of just having to keep up with making payments on stuff.
Yeah,
and it's sick.
It's interesting that you said that because so growing up, I guess I'm 44, so I'm from the generation where especially being from Peru, you want to get out of the country, which I mean, I love my country, but I'm happy that I did because I met my wife here, and I really love the States. I mean, again, love my country, but what I was gonna say is like I came here to go to business school, so I was just following this path that I thought I wanted. I was supposed to, not that I wanted it, right? So again, I'm gonna get this job, and I'm gonna buy this house, and I need to buy this car, and so you're right. You just focus on buying things.
Gotta pay for that white picket fence,
right? And
maintenance,
and that's not necessarily what makes you happy or alive, and so. Yeah, it's
cliche, but it's actually true.
Well, and what I was gonna go, I guess, with this thought was that I think I perceive or feel that people, I mean, younger people are maybe more aware of that, trying to focus on not necessarily on the material things, more like experiences, and try to have a happier life. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but
yeah,
when I think about people from my age, my friends, classmates, and they're still focused on that, on like having the house and having the car, and that's fine. I mean, we all have different ways of seeing life in general, but that's been a big change for me and my wife's, like just trying to pursue a life that's fulfilling.
Yeah,
and it's not easy.
I mean, I think I do present. I'm all about being a dad. I love my kids. They're expensive as hell, but if I'm gonna spend money on anything, those two,
right.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
In terms of my relationship with my wife, Chrissy, it's weird because we've been married for almost 10 years now. The person I married has grown into, a mom, and she didn't marry an ultra runner. So it's not like we have this absolute perfect marriage and we never argue, and like it's not perfect, and I hope I don't present it as perfect, because she didn't marry an ultra runner. Like,
yeah, for sure.
She married an extreme personality that goes all in, and gives everything towards, once I set my mind to something. So it's always a challenge, and we're always trying to work together as best as possible, and it's stressful having that second kid. Because we wanted to have two that were maybe 2 years apart, and we had a year that I kind of wrote about. It wasn't perfect, and we're very thankful for that second child.
Awesome.
And we're not having a third child.
Yeah. I was I think you said this in the podcast that how do you find balance? How you have such a understanding, great wife that lets you go out on runs, and you were like, well, yeah, because I'm a different person now as a runner, right? She appreciates that.
She knows what I was like for those first probably 5 years of marriage.
Yeah.
And I'm a much happier person.
That's awesome.
I feel like finding meditation through running's been a big part of it. So it's a nice fallback to have now, understanding how to meditate in case, I don't know, a few years from now I'm not running, or I find myself, injured for 6 months. Like, I don't, revert back to that just completely stressed out mess of a human. But yeah, I try, like, with social media and my book and podcast and films and everything, like, I try to present just the reality of the situation. It's hard though, because I'm trying to motivate people also. So I don't want to, like, dissuade them from running because, hey, look, I lost my big toenail here. We're going to focus on just what a disaster my feet are. Like, like, I'm trying to balance telling the story as it is and motivating people and being real but not complaining also. Yeah. So it's hard. It's a hard balance.
It is hard. I personally find it hard on Instagram to share. So I also try to be as honest as possible, but you're right. So I always try to find that balance of am I being too real? Is it too much? And also sometimes it's hard for me to, like, put thoughts into words. You know what I'm saying? You have to spend a lot of I don't know how much time you spend doing posts, but that's one of the things that for me, like, I spend a lot of time and then I'm like, I don't know if I necessarily see that.
I spend my time writing. So, like, I'll I don't think I've ever shared this with anyone really. I get up really early. Like,
we need to talk about
really
balance
freaking early.
You do a lot of okay.
I just haven't made a point of that because I know, like, there's guys on social media that will, like, take a photo of their watch at 4 a.m. every day and, like, hey,
like,
I'm a badass. Like, that's just not my style. I do get up at 4:30 every day.
Yeah.
And
what time do you go to bed?
After my wife too.
Okay.
So pretty early, relatively speaking. Probably 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock,
so
10
you
o'clock.
Get about 7, 8,
6, 7.
Okay. Have you found
those 2 hours though? When I first wake up, my creative brain is just on fire.
Yeah.
So I'll typically do some editing of some sort for, like, film work, or have this small laptop that I can just, like, crush out writing with. For whatever reason, my fingers with that laptop, it's like this little cheap Google Chrome laptop, and I can just, like, write as I think. And yeah, those first 2 hours of every day are like a religious time for me.
Yeah, your routine. Right.
And unfortunately, I can't run that often. Just with my job, I need to be at work early. So I've just made the most of that, and that's kind of like my creative time because I'm a very creative person, and I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, you do all kinds. Love that. Yeah, of course.
And I work in a non-creative industry, so it's kind of a weird existence. And then I'm trying to balance, like, helping out. But yeah,
it's interesting that you said that because you're saying you're creative and then you work in finance numbers. Yeah. How do you can you use creativity to in the job that you're using? Because I think you mentioned that you work on bonds. I think one of the parts of your job is to identify trends, and one of the things that get me curious is, like, I imagine you use all kinds of tools and programs and softwares to like digest data and come up with insights. But how much of identifying those trends is what is the word? Intuition?
Qualitative?
Yeah.
Almost.
Right.
A lot. Like, that's actually the value add. Because anyone in the industry can have those same tools. Yeah. And I mean, for corporate bonds. Yeah. I don't want to bore the audience, but
I love that.
Anyone can use those tools. So there's you're not really adding much. You're just doing that like status quo thing, and a lot of that type of industry is like, what else do you have? And so, like, my brain can put together, like, mergers and acquisitions before they happen really easily, because I can see, like, literally in my head, I can see, like, logistical like maps and stuff, so I can overlay like this company plus this company and see kind of in my head where those two would match up together.
Yeah.
And I like to be just like fiercely independent with my thinking.
Yeah.
So like the whole industry can say something and I can just, I'm allowed enough freedom to just say, like, this is what I think. I don't really care what the industry says. Like,
right. Now, what kind of industries are you focusing on? Like, when you study mergers and acquisitions, do you focus on
like a lot of technology related stuff.
Got it. So tech companies that, okay. It's just so interesting for me.
I haven't shared this, and normally I separate the two worlds like completely.
Yeah.
But I'm getting more comfortable, and I'm working on potentially collaborating more with the company. And I'm also more comfortable with not hiding as like an ultra runner. It's become who I am. So I'm definitely more comfortable, and like, guys from work bought my book, and
love that.
It's cool. Yeah,
of course. I'm a business geek, so I always appreciate to learn more about what people do and understand, trends and what's next. And so,
you do know I can apply that to ultra running, right? The whole trend thing, like seeing a Mario Mendoza before his big breakout, like that's something I absolutely love is seeing those patterns and seeing like a Matt Daniels before states, and like people are like, oh, why
nice.
there's no way that guy's gonna finish states, and like in my head I already know, like
nice. Do you have another runner in mind?
Another runner that I'm following? There's I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, I like also believing in people when they hit lows too.
Yeah,
that's like something I really, really am passionate about.
Yeah.
Is like talking to a Keeley or like a Inmay Flynn when they're injured, and they might be questioning themselves. So I feel like it's cool to believe in people when they're not at their best, and then. Keeley, I'd say watch out for.
Yeah, got it.
She's super talented, and there's a few other. I really like the female ultra runner fields. Like, there's such interesting stories, and sometimes I don't feel like ultra running media covers them well enough.
Totally. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of Trail Sisters.
Yeah.
What Gina Lucrezi has created and is building is this community that is just awesome. Empower women to run more on the trail, so
I see everyone as ultra runner. Like, I don't ever like really dissect subgroups within ultra running.
Yeah.
I see everyone as an ultra runner, regardless of gender and any other way to break down populations. I just like people. And I love ultra runners and trail runners, and
it's definitely more inclusive. It's definitely It's definitely a different type of community. It's funny because I was just thinking about gravel cycling. I'm looking into buying a gravel bike because I've been so curious about it, and I've been learning more about it. Been watching videos, and I see Tony Anton Krpich's journey to becoming this crazy gravel cyclist, and you can tell that community, the gravel cycling community, is completely different than the road cycling community. It's like it's more like it's like comparing road running with trail running. People are more chill. You don't necessarily have to wear all these fancy apparel or shoes or whatever. You have a beer at the end of.
I can't see Tony doing anything that's not chill.
That guy,
he can pretty much do whatever the hell he wants. That guy. He's a cool UD pack too, by the way.
You
should check that out.
You wear that one?
I haven't.
Yeah.
No, but I want to for like camera gear and stuff. It's for.
It's a bigger one, huh?
It's one that you can take on the bike and then take rock climbing, and then it's really cool pack.
The other day I was thinking, I wonder if he's working on with UD on some kind of pack for the bike.
He is. It's out there. Yeah.
Oh, it's out already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. He's
I'm biased, obviously, now, like working with UD, but
yeah. They have good
Yeah,
products.
I'm telling you, it's cool.
Yeah. Gosh, I forgot what we were talking about. But all right, so you So
You want to talk 200s? That's always a fun one.
yeah, I mean for sure. But before that, because I guess you've done so much in such a short period of time. But I wanted to ask you first about so you can run a mile, 0.8 miles. You're having shin splints. Then you one night at home. Correct me if I'm wrong. You decide to run on the treadmill and you end up running 4 miles. That was a
I think it was a Saturday.
That
Saturday
was
morning, yeah.
a milestone kind of a day for you. I mean,
It was huge.
Yeah, talk about that.
It was one of those, okay, here we go. Like, let's give this a shot.
Yeah.
I weigh 50 pounds lighter now. This is pretty much my first treadmill run. And I think I might have done like a easy kind of quarter mile warm up and then started running and just kept running. And watching that number, watching the 1.0, I think it was, like those LED block yellow, neon, I think it was neon yellow, light up, I was just mind blown. Like, is this really happening? And then I just kept going. And the weirdest thing was, I think I hit right around 4.0 and just wasn't fatigued at all and felt like this weird level of endurance kind of like running through my blood. And so because I know I have a tendency of being extreme, I was like, okay, chill out. Like,
don't
decline
pass out.
speed slowly. And then I walked it out, and it was just very emotional for me because I had wanted, like, ever since reading Ultra Marathon Man, all I wanted to do was run.
Yeah.
Like, I thought I would run a 50K once and be able to call myself an ultra runner. And I remember my brain just not comprehending 100 miles when I read that book. And I was just like, I know I can be an ultra runner. Like,
right.
I mentally became an ultra runner way, way before physically being an ultra runner.
Love that.
But then, the next day I ran 8 miles on the treadmill.
From 4 to 8.
And I remember I had to pause halfway through, went up, took a bathroom break.
Yeah.
Had like a Powerade downstairs,
Yeah.
I just turned on. I specifically remember his Ginger Runner's Squamish 50/50.
Oh yeah.
Was like just wow. Like I felt like I was out running the trails. I was on a flat incline in my basement, but that's where it started.
Yeah. So 4 miles, 8 miles, and then since I want to spend some time, a good portion of time, you're talking about your journey to 100 miles. So so you start running longer distances. You sign up for a marathon, and then you decide to do a half marathon as a warm up.
I didn't know how to pin a bib on. I was more freaked out about like corrals and stuff.
It did not go well at all. But you made it through it, and then
Thank you.
Well,
that was nice. That's a nice way to put it. I finished almost last place in a local,
but
it was a disaster.
And then
it was a train wreck.
And that was a road marathon, or
it was on like a bike path.
Yeah.
It was probably like 100 people, local half marathon out and back course.
Yeah,
and I could see the last place guy coming up and almost outdoing me at the finish line. And he had like open heart surgery 2 years prior or something.
Talk about good motivation, huh? So you do your full, and then everything, you start running longer distances, right? You sign up for your first 50K, and then a couple months later, you do your first 50 miler.
The next month.
Oh, the next month.
30 days, yeah.
And then you jump to, and we can talk more about this in a minute. I just want to go to what you're doing now, which
it's
is
all
insane.
in the book. It's all in the book, yeah.
But like how switching from 50 miles to 100 miles, I imagine it's a big thing. I mean, I've never done 100 miles, but like you were saying once, you can do 50K with marathon training pretty much. Of course, 50 miles is just a little different. Did you do anything differently, like from training for doing your 50 mile to 100 miler, like besides, I guess, running longer? Or
yeah, I lost basically the fear of failure. and I also failed a lot. So it's not like I just went into my first 100 and just blew cover off and just, this is
What's
easy.
next?
What's next? No, I failed my very first 100-mile attempt. I was looking down. I was at mile 47 of Burning River 100, which freaking love that race. I don't know why in my head I love it so much, and I want to make it out and do it again.
Where is it?
It's by Cincinnati or Cleveland,
okay.
Ohio.
Yeah.
It starts off like 20 kind of easy road miles, and then it gets on to like some pretty, more technical trail, but it's a fast course. But mile 47, looking down at my watch, realizing I can do 100 miles, and I clip a route in road shoes.
Oh, no.
And my big toe was just destroyed.
Oh.
So I pulled the plug at mile 50, just without the experience of knowing how to handle that situation, and being able to look beyond that 50-mile mark and realizing like I got it. Like I was running into the 50-mile mark, so I can, worst case, like hike it in 15 miles to 100.
Yeah.
But then, Kettle was kind of a breakthrough, realizing, like hitting a low, bonking to the point where I'm laying down. My pacer Tommy, laying down in a road of all places, and being able to get through that bonk and realizing like, pain's not linear and you can get through it. This is how you get through it. And then, after that experience, I did have some slight injuries, which actually were more hydration related than anything. But then it was more of testing my limits. After I totally lost the fear of failure, I lost kind of the fear of distance and realizing your body just cycles, and here's like the 3 or 4 things you need to do to get through those lows. And now it's more of mentally, how much do you need to sleep and those sort of things, as opposed to like I don't know how to describe it though, is once you realize the cycles, how do you prolong the cycles?
Right.
Like the good parts.
Got it. It's interesting. I like that because you prepare yourself to not only embrace everything, but like you were saying, you stop worrying about failure, and that's something that's big.
We're all worried about a
course.
DNF, and like we build these things up in our heads, like
uncertainty too.
What if I don't do below 1 hour in the half marathon or 10K, the local 10K? Like you build up, like people actually care what time you run, and ultimately it's all about like what you're getting away from the race. And maybe it took me, I think I've finished 22 ultras. Maybe it's taken me quite a few of those to realize like this isn't about me. This is bigger, and we each can get a lot from these experiences. And it's just quit thinking that people care about your finish time, or just put in perspective. Like there's so many bigger issues in the world than what your ultra sign up has, down for you for the Silver Rush finish time. Like no one ultimately cares. It's good to be satisfied with stuff and fulfilled, like personally, but
correct.
Don't go into it thinking anyone's going to judge you because like you DNF something,
Of course. And so, gosh, we have so much to talk and so little time. But one of the things that I like about learning more about you is like you're very goal oriented, and several interviews that I read and heard about you, you're like, I want to do this one day. I want to do this one day. And you're like starting to, achieve those goals. And one of them was, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, the CCC 100K.
Yeah.
Because that was another big race for you, which, correct me if I'm wrong, did that kind of trigger your curiosity to, hey, maybe I should tackle longer distance, like 200-mile races?
Yeah, that was a good race for me.
Yeah.
Being able to fly out like on short notice, essentially, because my wife had just had our second child, so trying to work that into the schedule was difficult. And so less than 1 week, I spent almost as much time in the airplane as anywhere in Europe. But yeah, that showed me like I did have something kind of base level fitness going on. And like I set in my head the goal of top 500, which some people will laugh at, but there's 2,500 people at CCC, and honestly, some of the better runners and hikers, and those climbs are unreal in terms of steepness. And I was trying to run a smart race. I got caught behind just the longest train of people I've ever seen my whole life. And a lot of them weren't running smart races, but I was being penalized for being smart. So I was probably in 1,200th place on the first climb. And things just kept rolling and rolling, getting better and better and better, to the point where I was running about an 8.5-minute pace.
What?
Into the mile, probably 64.
Yeah.
65 finish line.
Wow.
And just squeaked in. Like, I had two goals, top 500 and then a sub 20 hour. And like between the rain and mud, like there was ice skating type mud for sections.
That's rough.
But squeaking in, I think 3 minutes before that 20-hour mark.
Nice.
Like being able to dig deep and and really like get to that finish line and will myself into my goals, and finishing, it was like 489th or something like that. Just making it happen.
Right.
And realizing like, yeah, it was a physical feat, but I think it kind of unlocked something mentally that I could really tap into. And then I leveraged that into Moab 240.
So what made you think, okay, I'm done, you accomplished this big goal? What made you think about the idea of running a 240? Moab is 240, right? So that was your first 200 plus run.
Extra 40 miles.
So, I mean, what made you think about trying that?
I don't know. I wrote the chapter on the flight home, and it was like kind of the perfect end to the book. You know, that was my A goal. I just had a great race. For me, I was so satisfied. It was meaningful. I was able to tackle any problem that came up. Like, my problem solving was just off the charts. I felt like I could handle anything that was thrown at me.
Yeah.
And then that opportunity for Moab came up, and I talked to Candace, and she's like, yeah, let's do it. Like, so she was a huge supporter of me. She gave me that opportunity, and I was forever grateful. And a lot of people, made that happen. Yeah. You know, I had companies that all reached out and were giving me the best gear to go handle this, and everyone was taking personal days off of work in terms of my crew and pacers. And Dave, the crew captain, who's in the book, just helped out tremendously. And I went out there, and I was 20 miles into the race and dropped my nutrition bag and just bonked for 30 miles.
Wow.
It was like a low that I had approached at Kettle for 20 minutes, and then this was, I don't know how many hours, but it took me till mile 75 to figure things out. It was fun to be able to go over and like write that down, because that was such a low. Yeah. Like, it was just like realizing, and my editor, Julie Moulton, actually was out there with me in Moab running that race too, which is kind of cool to have your book editor. Right. She was actually at Kettle too. I see. But she talked about the guy who had found the bag of 2,000 calories. So I was just learning to deal with lows there. But yeah, having the weight of, hey, anyone can do this, like, believe in yourself, to then hitting mile 50 and almost giving up, and like sitting by a campfire and looking up at the sky, which just you could see every star, and just finding something even deeper. So every low that I hit, I think I find out something new about myself. And Moab, I hit a lot of lows.
Yeah, I can't imagine. It's got to be really hard. Not only because you're not, excuse me, you're not feeling well physically, mentally, but I don't know, you have all this pressure, of course, that you put yourself. You have all these friends and family and people are, who believe in you, and you just don't want to let them down, of course. I don't know. I think about my wife when I'm doing races. I'm like, I don't want to let her down. We spend X much money to, these kinds of things. So I hear you. I mean, I can't even imagine.
My newborn got me through that one because he had been having some serious health scares, like very serious. So yeah, when I was sitting by that campfire, that's the thought of like just deep level thankfulness. Got me through it, got me up, got me motivated, got me out of that aid station, Breaking Bad, and then a mile later I bonked. So
how many? So
it was bad.
Tell people, like, how many days did it take you to finish the race?
Took 4 days.
4 days.
Almost exactly 4 days straight.
Wow.
And I slept for less than 5 hours, which I'm still trying to toy with whether I need more.
Yeah.
Because the hallucinations got bad.
Yeah.
Which have become kind of like the joke around
What?
my hallucinations and snakes. So.
Oh, what kind of hallucinations?
I started seeing coiled up snakes under every rock during this big climb into mile 200.
Yeah.
So there's kind of this notorious climb, and my brain just kind of went right around mile 190. And so for 10 miles, I was just hallucinating snakes, and I hallucinated a photographer, Howie Stern, behind a log. And so I ran.
Howie Stern? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Nice dude.
Yeah.
There was another, Scott was out there taking photos, and was actually there. And then I full-blown hallucinated that Howie was taking photos, so I ran through this puddle because I was like, we got like the best photographer. He's going to capture this badass photo.
Yeah.
And I checked with my pacer, and he's like, no, man, we haven't seen anyone for like 2 miles.
Oh, my God.
I was like,
amazing.
What? Okay, I need to sleep at the next aid station.
That's crazy. And so you finished that. I can't believe it. Like, it just sounds so unimaginable. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to give it a try to do 3 races in a 3-month period. Is that right? Wow.
Yeah, Triple Crown of 200s.
So we need to wrap up in the next couple of minutes. But talk more about, give a little description about that attempt that you're going to do.
Well, finishing Moab 240, I mentally was kind of lost. Like, I've written kind of the intro to possibly another book, and I felt like I was just kind of, I don't know, lost at sea. Like, what do you do? Like, how do you top that? Because that was crazy coming back from the dead. Like, I describe it in my book as I literally hit such a low that I was done. And
whoa, done with running?
No,
okay.
No. But
I mean, just destroyed, trashed.
Yeah, it was the lowest of lows. That's as best as I can describe it. But yeah, initially coming back, I had thought about some kind of crazy run across a state, not an FKT or anything because I don't have that speed, but doing something kind of off the radar, or like not a like a race. And then I just kept thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I was like, Candace, I think I'm going to go for it. And she's like, hell yeah.
Awesome.
Like, do it.
Because, Candace manages all those races, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Destination Trail, and just to be upfront, like, they're a sponsor of everything I do. But
big fan here. Candace, you want to be in the show? No.
You should have her. She'd be great.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of her.
So, yeah, Bigfoot 200's August.
Okay.
Tahoe 200, September, and then it's finished off October with Moab 240. So it's about 650 miles. And Bigfoot looks intimidating. It's wild. It circumnavigates Mount St. Helens. Like, you are dependent on river crossings and streams for water in certain sections. There's 42,000 feet of gain. And to put that in perspective, I think Mount Everest is, 29,000?
Yep. Oh.
So the amount of climbing, it's not only 206 miles in terms of the distance, but the ups and downs are just unreal. So that's how I start off. And then I have 30 days to recover for Tahoe 200.
Right.
205 miles. I think it's like 35,000 or 38,000 feet of gain.
Right.
Yeah. And then Moab,
it's
240.
And then the New York City Marathon. But
and you know what? I get this question all the time, and it's like, how do you handle this? Like, aren't you intimidated? And I say the same. I sound like a broken recorder, but I'm just focused on Bigfoot, like mile 1, and just going from there, because that's all I can do.
Yeah.
And I'm confident with my problem-solving abilities, and
yeah.
You start looking forward to the problems, because like you just have to have that confidence of you've been through a lot, and 200 milers are definitely graduate level ultra running. Like, you have to apply what you learn from Javelina 100. You know, how do you do that ice buff properly, and what's worked and what hasn't? So apply the past 22 ultra finishes that I have. Apply what you learned during those long runs gone wrong, and be a problem solver.
Right.
And know that I'll probably have, just during Bigfoot, I'll have 4 massive problems that are game enders if I don't react properly.
What are those?
Well, balancing electrolytes, because if you get dehydrated, your stomach goes, then that cascades into, now I can't eat food, calories, bonking, which turns into missing cutoffs, maybe cutting down on sleep.
Oh, yeah.
So things can progress into massive problems if you don't, like, keep the base, like feet, for instance. Like, one little rock, if I don't stop for a rock at mile 5 to get it out of my shoe, can be debilitating at mile 175. So
makes sense.
Taking care of problems before they become game enders.
I like how you approach that. Like, you are already thinking about all kinds of scenarios, and so you have, in your mind, you already have ways to address those things. Because sometimes we don't really. I've been there with the whole pebble thing. Like, okay, I get a pebble in the first couple miles, and I'm like, no, and then you get a big blister, and you're suffering. So
I've learned the hard way a lot of times.
Of course. Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing is, like, anytime you DNF, as long as you take away, like, lesson learned that you can apply forward, it's fine.
Right.
If you're DNFing and you're not learning a single thing, that's when you got to start questioning what's going on here.
Yeah, for sure.
So keep learning from your mistakes, and then, expect problems. If you go into a 200 thinking you're not going to have a problem, like, are you going to be surprised and devastated when you have one thing pop up? Yes. Yeah. Like, so I go in knowing and expecting problems, and a lot of times in my head I'll expect worst case scenario, so that even if it's like at Bighorn 100, that mud for 8 miles, that I dealt with.
Right.
I think I got through it just by expecting mud, knowing, and then just problem solving as we went.
Right.
So
this is we need to talk. We need to get together again after you finish that 3 200s, because it's gonna be an amazing experience. We gotta wrap up this conversation, but I really appreciate you coming here. Thank you so much for your book. I'm so looking forward to reading it. I've on social media see all kind of amazing reviews. Training for Ultra. For people who would like to get in touch with you, learn more about you, get your book, where can they find you, Rob?
Everything's Training for Ultra. I used up all my creativity.
I love it. It's an awesome name.
The book's gaining, like, actually quite a bit of popularity on Audible. So,
perfect.
And it's available on iTunes.
Awesome.
And if you want a copy, just let me know. I'll hook you up. So appreciate you having me on. Honored to be here.
Oh, that's it. It's my pleasure. Like I said before, you inspire me to be better. You're inspiring a lot of people, And that's what we need these days, man. Be real.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
you know, let people know that, hey, you can do it. So
Change is possible for the better, and I wake up every day, you know, reminding myself
yeah.
I couldn't do 0.8 before,
Yeah.
and now
That's incredible.
going after triple. So
Love it. Thanks, Rob.
yeah,
man.
thanks.